You know, when you have a show about gratitude, you've got to be grateful for your sponsors. And in our life of gratitude, you know, we all have guides. Somebody that guided us through our lives, that made us appreciate those things that we have. And that's why I'm so delighted and so grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Life Guides is a peer-to-peer community that helps people navigate through their day-to-day stressors by providing a place of empathy, listening, wisdom, and support with a guide who has walked in your shoes, experiencing the same challenge or life experience as you. A true life guide. And because you're listening to our gratitude podcast, if you go to their website, lifeguides.com/schedule a demo and add the code HEALTHY2021. The code is HEALTHY2021 in the free text box. You'll get 2 months of their services for free. 2 months for free. So sign up, show your team you care, get a life guide, be grateful for those guides in your life, as I am grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Hey, welcome everybody to Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton, the apostle of appreciation, coming live and in color from the gratitude epicenter of the universe, Summit, New Jersey. You know, we're live streaming on LinkedIn today. We've got some great guests for you. And by the way, thank you so much for tuning in. You know, we say, look, give us 30 minutes and we'll give you 30 minutes of great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to a life of gratitude at work and at home. We're so delighted to have you as part of our network. Well, listen, this is all brought to you by the wonderful people on the Methods Network. If you're looking to improve your leadership skills, all you got to do is go to methodsof.com. They've got great courses. They got Marshall Goldsmith, the Orton Solution, Teal, Martin Lindstrom, the great marketing mind, and Sally Helgeson, how to help women rise. And by the way, for listening to our show, if you sign up for their annual subscription, all you got to do is put in Gratitude 2021. You get a 50% discount. We love our friends at the Methods of Network. I'm really excited to introduce our guests to you today. They've been dear friends of mine for a long time. They are our first return guests to the Leading with Gratitude live show. So let me give you a little bit about their backstory. They've been married since 1966. They have 5 awesome kids. They've raised them in their 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. Let that sink in for just a minute, where they have lived since 1999. Erik and Emily Orton, they're our guests today. Erik is an Emmy Award winning writer. Emily is a former English teacher turned homeschool mom. Together, they now write, speak, and teach about living a better story. They believe the most important thing you can do is live a better story. And they're going to talk to us about that today. They believe the greatest gift that we can give each other is our encouragement. They hope that sharing their stories sparks clarity and confidence in you to live deliberately doing what you care about most with the people you care about most. They are the co-founders of The Awesome Factory. They are the co-authors of 7 at Sea. Please welcome to LinkedIn Live, my dear friends, Erik and Emily Orton. Welcome, guys.
Chester, it's so good to be with you. We love you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. What a treat.
One correction. We've been married since 1996 because you said 66, which was before we were born, so that would be really weird. But anyway,
people are going to think we look so good.
Yeah, you've aged well. Hey, well, listen, we're going to have people tuning in from all over the world. We've already got Amber calling in from the UK. We've got Kobe from South Africa. And as they listen, they're going to have questions for you, and they're going to put them in the chat box. And when they do that, we're going to go to the Question Command Center with Christy Lawrence, live and in color from Atlanta, Georgia. She's waving to the crowd there. Love the glasses. So let's get started. So here's the thing. Like, I've known you guys for a long time. And I remember, you know, when you launched your book, 7 at Sea, it was just a remarkable story. Now you are the co-founders of The Awesome Factory. So tell us about the evolution of that, from authors to like The Awesome Factory. You're now teachers. You present at conferences. So I'm going to throw it to you first, Emily. So talk to me about the evolution from authors to like teachers and speakers.
Okay, so Chester, one of our foundational questions is always what could go right? It got us out on this sailboat. It opens up all these positive possibilities. And one of the things when we did write 7 at Sea, we had a lot of high expectations for it, that we'd be able to solidify the lessons we had learned on the journey, that we'd preserve memories for our future generations, and that readers would be inspired, like you said, to recognize how many choices they really have, and then to make those choices more deliberately in fashioning a life that was significant and meaningful to them. And it did those things, but what we were not expecting is that as we reflected and wrote this journey out, that we would discover or reverse engineer a process for facing uncertainty, for facing disruption, or those shifts that come into our life, whether we're seeking them or whether we just need to reframe a scenario we can't avoid and make it an opportunity. And so as we discovered this kind of roadmap for us, we call it the navigator framework, that allows us to go from drifting to navigating. And honestly, for several years, we just used it ourselves in our own life. And it allowed us to accelerate the pace at which we achieved big goals that we had. But as a pandemic, shrouded the planet, and worry was so ubiquitous and chronic, and we were all like so concerned, and we were all disrupted in many of the same ways at once. Erik and I thought, we've been doing this. This is our lifestyle. We have a process, and we'd like to be able to share it with other people. And that is how, the Awesome Factory was born, to sort of share this navigator framework, and then all the other sort of lessons that we had already been employing for years to, dance with uncertainty.
Yeah, excellent. So, Erik, walk me through the from drifting to navigating, and I love you guys say what could go right, because what do we always say? What could go wrong? Everything. So,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that process.
So the Navigator framework has 7 steps, and Emily, double check me and make sure I get this right. The first step is to choose your own island. The next step is to cast off. Sorry, then you choose your own island, then you chart your course, then you cast off, navigate out of the harbor, you set your autopilot, you trust your compass, and then you arrive at your new island and you drop anchor. So those are the 7 steps. And of course, they're all metaphors. They're sailing metaphors. And the island is really whatever it is that you want to do. We learned this lesson sailing. We learned these lessons sailing on a boat for a year, and we would literally travel from island to island. But when we came home, and like Emily said, we had reverse engineered this process, and we started to choose other goals and ideas that we wanted to pursue. Most often, they had nothing to do with sailing. And so an island can be whatever you want. It can be, hey, I want to make a shift in my career, or I want to, improve this relationship, or I want to, develop this hobby. The island can be whatever you want. And we've applied it to things like writing a book, to rock climbing ambitions that I have. We've seen friends take it and use it to make big career transitions. One of our good friends left a long-time career in the laser defense industry, and now he runs a yoga studio, and he's a physics teacher. We do sailing retreats as well, where we teach this, and one of the couples that we took out, the husband, he's the director of housing and urban development in the Bay Area, and he took this framework back to his team, and they just were able to think expansively and big about what they wanted to do. And so anyway, the framework itself, it takes a little while to explain it. We, sometimes we'll take weeks or, days or hours to walk through it. So we won't go into detail here, but it's basically choosing something that really matters to you. And it's important that it matters to you, that it's not some dream or hope or ambition that's coming from the outside onto you. It's critical that it's authentic to your values and your priorities. And then we just walk through how to break it down into a process where you can arrive steadily and safely, and then go from there. And you can keep choosing new islands after you arrive. So that's what the Navigator framework is.
Excellent. It's interesting, Emily. So in your bio, you talk about raising 5 kids. So there's 7 of you in a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City. Now, that's quite an adventure. And I know there's a lot of people. For example, we've got Amber tuning in from the UK. By the way, she was in our earlier live show with me and Adrian. So thanks for tuning in twice today, Amber. We've got Valdez here from Brazil and Abdul Rahman from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which I'm going to be there later this month. So with all these people tuning in from all over the world, they're all thinking New York City, 2-bedroom apartment, 5 kids. Emily, how did you do that?
Wow, Chester, that's a good question. Proximity doesn't always mean connectedness. So we were very close together, and we realized if we were going to function like a family, like a team, we just had to cultivate these high levels of awareness and tolerance and appreciation for each other. And I actually have taken this same group, right? My same family has lived for weeks at a time in much larger homes, like 5,000 square feet or whatever. And we've decided, we actually prefer these small settings where we're able to stay in touch frequently. But like I said, it does require us just really having a compassion on each other and a high level of tolerance to be able to say, hey, this person isn't going to be taking any feedback today. This person just needs to put in their headphones and have some time alone. Also, I will say that because it is New York City, we had amazing parks and cultural opportunities and neighbors, and there's always something interesting to learn. And we go out into that amazing world, and then we come back and sit at our dinner table and share what we learned. And it's so fun.
I love that you venture out, right? And, I live just outside New York City. In fact, I'm heading in there tomorrow, and I love being in the city. The energy, the vibe is always so great. And I love that you said at the end of the day, we shared our stories, around the dinner table. Storytelling and creating a story is a big part of what you do at the Awesome Factory, right? Why is there such power in knowing people's story? Erik, I'm going to throw this to you because you guys are great storytellers and you teach people to talk about their stories. Why is that so important to a happy life?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you, Chester. I think, my background is in writing, playwriting, theater, and we really do believe that stories are crucial. And stories are how we absorb information. We can teach a principle, but we really remember it when we hear a story. And you know that. I mean, you're an amazing storyteller as well. And you teach so effectively using stories. And what I think we've come to realize is that our life is also a story, and we get to write it. And if our story is not engaging to us, especially to us, doesn't matter if it's engaging to other people. If it's not engaging to us, we can do something about that. And oftentimes we think of heroes as other people, but when you think about the hero's journey, which is the core of how stories work, it's important to put ourselves in the role of the hero and say, here's a question that we like to ask ourselves, and it served other people well. When you say, if my life was a movie and I was the hero, what would I want me to do next? It's a powerful way to come into a decision, because when you watch a movie, you know that you don't want the hero to shrink back from the right risk. You don't want them to be stupid, but you want them to choose the right amount of adventure that's going to help them grow and become their best selves. And that's really what storytelling is about. And as we recognize that our life is a story, and we craft it into something that leads us to growth, that's happiness. Happiness, progress and growth are happiness. And so just this paradigm of being able to see our lives as a story and make decisions accordingly is really what we're about, because we can live better stories. If our story is uninspiring or uninteresting or unengaging, we have the power to change that. The real challenge is we have to be willing to see ourselves differently. And that's been the hardest part for us, and it's the hardest part for everybody. But as we come to see ourselves differently, we can step into new roles in our lives and really fun.
Excellent. So
I'd
Emily,
love to follow up
movie,
on that, if I may.
absolutely.
Thank you. I think the most powerful stories are the ones that we tell to ourselves. And I had a story that I told myself for a long time because I saw the commercial for Jaws when I was about 4 years old, and I was terrified of deep water anywhere, swimming pool anywhere, uh, for decades. And then Erik had this idea. We tell all about it in our book 7 at Sea, but the journey is from knowing nothing about sailing to learning to sail and moving aboard a sailboat. And so in this process, right, he invites me to learn how to sail, and I do not want to, because this story that I have for myself is that I'm scared of deep water. And he's like, oh, you know what? That's perfect, because that's the perfect reason to learn how to sail, because then you never have to go in the water. Well, as we progress down the line, it becomes obvious that it's ridiculous for me to think that I'm going to live on a sailboat for a year with my 5 children from 6 to 16, right? And never get in the water. So we're taking this class, learning how to sail these larger boats. And everyone else is in the water snorkeling, and I'm sitting on, on the boat by myself, just looking at the water, terrified. And I ask myself these questions, like, there's always like, who am I, which is fun to consider, but more relevant is, who do I want to become? Who do I want to be? Do I think I can live on a boat and never get in the water? And what kind of example am I setting for my kids? And for me, that was just enough push to get me to put on a mask and some flippers and slip into the water. And now, once I got in there, I was terrified. Obviously, my heart was racing like crazy. It was this new environment, and I felt very at risk. But as I made my way to the reef and saw what that was like, with the coral and the fish and the sea fans and the sound of it and the motion of it, everything about it, I forgot to be afraid. And I enjoyed myself thoroughly. And then Erik caught up with me, surprised to see me there, said, are you okay? Do you want to swim back to the boat together? And to the first question, yes, I'm okay. 2, no, I do not want to swim back to the boat, because this is my new favorite thing. And so what I realized is what I had thought was kind of part of my identity, this like, I'm not a water person, I'm afraid of water, was actually just a story that I was in the habit of telling myself. It wasn't a helpful story, and in fact was not even a true story, because once I got in there and had this new experience, I realized I love this, right? And so that changed my relationship to fear and the story I tell about fear. So now when things are afraid, I feel resistance, or I feel nervous about something, I have that question, like, what other favorite things might be hiding behind that fear? And I lean into it, because I have a new story about fear. Anyway, it changed really quickly. I didn't have to adjust all my habits and adjust all my thinking, because I was the same person, but in a new story.
Excellent. Excellent.
There you go.
Yeah. So we're talking with Erik and Emily Orton. They are the co-authors of 7 at Sea, the co-founders of the Awesome Factory. You can catch up with them at the awesomefactory.nyc. How cool is that? So Erik, if they ever make a movie about me, I want Danny DeVito to play me. So if they
No.
about
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, yeah, I know. So you're making the movie of your life. Who plays you? What actor do you want to play you?
I had actually want Matt Damon.
Emily, who's Emily Orton in the story of your life?
Oh, wow. Oh gosh. She
Rhea
plays
Perlman.
Yeah. There you go. I am not a tall person. It's that WandaVision actress. Maybe the people who are watching can tell us. She's one of the Avengers, she plays Wendy, or Wanda, the Scarlet Witch.
WandaVision. Yeah, great show. Hey, listen, we're going to take a break and just thank our sponsors one more time here, the guys at methodsof.com. They bring us all these great production. They've got incredible online courses for you to become a better leader, to become a better parent, to become just a better marketer. Martin Lindstrom, one of the great marketing minds of our time. Marshall Goldsmith, the #1 executive coach in the world. We even have a great course in there on teamwork. We filmed it at the Prudential Center, where the New Jersey Devils play, my hockey team. I'm actually going to a game tonight. Very excited. Well, because you're tuning in to our live show, if you sign up for their annual subscription on Methods Plus, you just put in Gratitude 2021. You get a 50% discount on what it costs. So invest in yourself, become a better leader at Methods of. Hey, so Erik and Emily, you and we both had a big contract. We presented to Choice Hotels all over the
Yeah.
country. So walk us through, you had a couple of sessions with these leaders of hotels. What do you do when you've got like an hour and a half with people that want a better life? They want a happier life. They're going to use your methodology. How does that work at a conference? Walk us through it. Erik, why don't you kick us off?
Oh boy. Well, we didn't know what to expect coming into this. Is one of our first get-togethers post-COVID, and so we really just wanted to help people, and we were blown away by the response. Quite frankly, we share our stories, we share the Navigator framework, and then we invite people to ask 3 really important questions. And these questions, sorry, not 3 questions, but a set of questions that have really helped us. They're called blue sky questions. And we really invite people to pause and to mute fear, because so much of our world, so much of our life is trying to deal with what could go wrong. And we try and protect against the downside that feels responsible, it feels reasonable. And so and this isn't one of the blue sky questions, but we ask people to consider, first of all, what could go right? Because that question is limitless. The possibilities are untold, but that can be a little bit big. And so we break it down, and we share these blue sky questions with them, and we ask them to just, in their own mind, answer them. One of them is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Emily just shared a great example of something that she did when she was able to pause or mute fear. So we ask people to answer the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? What would you do if money were no object? Write down some answers to that. What would you do if you knew you would succeed? And there's a few others, but those are some of the strong ones, because so often we won't even let ourselves think about what we want because we don't know how we're going to get it. And when we answer these blue sky questions, and blue sky just means sky's the limit, think big. When we answer these questions, we start to open ourselves up to possibilities that we would not have considered for ourselves before. And this is part of the process of seeing ourselves in a new way. Because so often we limit ourselves, we don't let ourselves even try something because it feels like it's for other people. I felt like living on a sailboat was for other people. I was rebounding off a big business failure. We had no money. I had no connections. I knew nothing about sailing. And so it required me to see myself in a new way, just to walk into a sailing school and say, hey, how does this work? Because it felt beyond me financially, socially, emotionally. And so we really try and help people get out of this shell of their current personal limits and open themselves up to, what would they do if they weren't afraid? What would they do if they knew they would succeed? What would they do if money were no object? Because that pauses and mutes fear, and it opens up all kinds of possibilities of things that we don't know the answer yet. We don't know how it's going to work out. And the Navigator framework, we walk people through how to connect those dots, but really it's about helping people transition from an old mindset about themselves or their family or their job or their team, whatever it might be, wherever they're feeling stuck, and to just think about the positive possibilities. Because just a quick story, when we were at the threshold of, do we buy the boat or not? A lot of questions came up of, do we want to, all the things that could go wrong. We could get sick and injured. We could wreck the boat. We could sink it. We could be ruined financially. All these things that could go wrong as we contemplated moving onto a sailboat. But then we thought of all the things that could go right. We could visit beautiful places. We could come together as a family like never before. We could meet amazing people. We could gain new skills. And as we built that list of what could go right, it got longer and longer, and it was really likely compared to this short list of negative outcomes, which were unlikely. And we knew that if we didn't make this choice, none of these things would happen, for sure, 100%. And if we made this choice, this other list of things that could go wrong might happen. And the scale started to tip pretty easily. And we realized that we would definitely miss out on all of this if we didn't go. And so that's the power of asking the question of what could go right together with what could go wrong. And then, you know,
Excellent.
getting there incrementally, letting ourselves open up with smaller questions, like, you know, as we pause and mute fear. And that's what we try
You
and
know,
walk
Emily,
people through when we spend time together.
excellent. So, Emily, a lot of talk now because of COVID and isolation and so on about mental health, right? Anxiety, particularly in families. You know, you homeschool your kids, and you've been doing it for a long time. So I don't imagine things changed for you on the education front very much. But as you've engaged with families and so on that are dealing with mental health, how does the Awesome Factory and how does this telling your story of a better life, how does that help with mental health, or does it?
No, it really does. And honestly, we went through the same thing as everyone else. We just went through it in 2007, you know, when we started homeschooling. So we had a lot of compassion for what people were experiencing. What I think is important, like Eric was saying about being able to see yourself in a new way or be deliberate about making the choices in your own story that really do help with mental health, or that it's the feeling of not knowing, it's the feeling of not having control that can be so upsetting to us. It's like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen next. That can be really upsetting. And so we have frameworks for that. For example, when you first become disoriented, you know, we have the exploration stage. That's actually the part of choosing your own island and envisioning what kind of relationships you want to be in, or what you want your new normal to look like. And that is a work that we can do deliberately. And suddenly there's a whole set of choices that are in front of us. And we feel just more calm when we have choices, you know, and we're going to be the ones making those decisions. And then I would say also the outcome of this, as we move towards that new island or that new goal, the natural outgrowth is confidence. As we take action, it comes in three different ways. We call it the three kinds of confidence. And this is what we have experienced over and over again. And the first is the natural outgrowth of confidence that comes when you learn a new skill, competence. The three kinds of competence are competence, credibility, and calm. So competence, learning a new skill. Credibility, when you do what you'll say you'll do. And this can be even just in the little micro promises that you make yourself, like, well, today I'm going to get up, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to eat a healthy breakfast. And it seems like it wouldn't have such a big impact, but it does. When you do what you say you're going to do, and you keep promises to yourself and then to others, it starts to alleviate some of that anxiety. And then for me, I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. For me, calm is the third and probably most transformative kind of confidence. It's just saying, look at everything I have figured out up to this point. I trust that I'm going to be able to take whatever perplexing new situation comes in front of me. As I get closer to it, details will emerge. I'll ask the right questions. I'll, you know, get the help, whatever it is that I need, and I'll be able to face it. So I don't have to stress out so much about what's going to come next, because with all this precedent, 100% survival rate, I'm going to be able to solve this next puzzle. And I will say, Chester, that your theme here, especially gratitude, is so helpful. We've seen it over and over again when we start to get very anxious and like we're not sure about the future. Taking the what could go right question and making it present and saying, what is going right? What am I grateful for right now? It just takes that cortisol level way down. You get your executive function back, and you can start making good decisions.
Excellent. Well, you know, the perfect segue into our last question for you in 10 seconds or less. Eric, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I love that question. Wow. I'm grateful to be with you, quite frankly, because you and I haven't talked in a long time. And so just to get to hang out with you, and I get to see my wife because I'm on the road. And so to have my most favorite person and then my next most favorite person in the same place makes my day.
Excellent. Emily, what are you grateful for today?
All right, for me today, Chester, I'm just going to say something very simple. It is just natural light.
Excellent.
The first thing I do when I wake up is I just open the blinds or go sit on the back porch and I just let that light soak in, and it just like starts to wake me up and I start getting excited about the day, and yeah, it just feels different and it feels good. I love the natural light.
Excellent. Well, they are the co-authors of Seven at Sea, Erik and Emily Orton. They are the co-founders of The Awesome Factory. Find them at www.theawesomefactory.nyc. Again, a quick shout out to Methods Of that makes our show possible. Go put Gratitude 2021 in the checkout box. You get a 50% discount. We also want to give a shout out to our wonderful publisher, Leading with Gratitude, available at fine bookstores everywhere. Alan Mullally said of Leading with Gratitude, I love, love, love this book. And a not so subtle shout out to Buy Me, Buy Me, Buy Me. Hey, listen, thanks for joining us today. A special shout out to Joe Ione, who tunes into all our live shows. We love Joe. Our question command center in Atlanta, Georgia, Christy Lawrence. She's the one that gets us all these amazing gifts. Erik and Emily Orton, and of course, the world's greatest online producer, without question, in Austin, Texas. His name is Brent Klein. Shout out to Brent. Well, our tradition is we raise the music and we dance it out. So let me see your best dance moves on Zoom, Erik and Emily. And we will see you next week. Check us out on LinkedIn. Sign up for our gratitude journal. A little bit of... Hey, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. 30 minutes of just great fun. Be grateful, be happy, be of service. And we're out.